and I'm glad that you were able to join us. My name is Jewel Heath. I am the coordinator for the Chamber's Community Empowerment Center, which will be opening soon. As we anticipate the opening, once our renovations are complete, we will be hosting virtual events such as this, just to get the information out to you until we can be in person. And so one of the things that has come up more than once from various, please make sure that you are muted. Just going to ask everyone to make sure they're muted. Thank you. And one of the things that has come to my attention in talking to parents is the idea of, how do you prepare for college and for having enough financial resources to ensure that your child, your student, your grandchild can go to college. And as we know, it's been in the news, especially during this past year, the amount of debt burden that college has created for so many people. And there's still legislation pending in order to address how we can alleviate some of those student loans. We have with us this evening Jordan Green Ellis, who is a financial aid specialist, an expert who has an award-winning book. He goes out all over the country and consults with school districts, with individuals, and also provides one-on-one coaching to families on how they can successfully secure the funds necessary, whether that's through scholarships or other forms of aid, for their child to be able to attend college without accruing that debt burden. As we know, we want our children to really have the best start possible and not to have to be burdened down by starting off their fresh careers and their adulthood with an inordinate amount of debt weighing them down. And so without further ado, I just want to bring on Mr. Jordan Green Ellis. There will be time for questions at the end. So make sure that if you do have a question, you're worried about forgetting it, please put it in the chat. We have our moderator, Miss White, who's on here, and she's going to be facilitating that information. So feel free to put that in the chat so that we can make sure your questions are answered. I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Green Ellis.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miss Heath, for that awesome, wonderful, amazing introduction. Just do me a favor really quickly. Just want to make sure that I'm in the right place, that I'm at East Cleveland City Schools District. Can you do me a favor? If you can hear my voice and see my face clearly, just give me a 1 in the chat just so that we're all on the same page. I want to see who's here. I see we've got enthusiastic Eugenia Thomas. We've got Shamika in the building, and we've got some others that are going to be on the way. I so appreciate you guys for being punctual. Punctuality is literally going to be one of the keys that we're going to talk about tonight. I'm so honored again to be here. Huge thank you to this awesome educator, this tenacious individual who is on the lines going to bat for you guys every single day, Miss Jewel Heath. I want you guys to do like how my wife does in her first grade classroom. Give a round of applause, y'all, just like this, a round of applause. We thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing. All of the administrators, the principals, all the faculty and staff at East Cleveland City Schools, Dr. Pettigrew, we thank you so much for all of your amazing hard work that you put forth this far, and we can't wait to see all the amazing things that you're going to do. I love it. We've got clapping in the chat. I love it so much. Listen, y'all, this session that we're going to have together is literally going to be one like no other. This is not going to be one of those boring type of workshops, okay? We're going to laugh. Y'all might drop a tear or two, but most importantly, you're going to leave this platform inspired. That's my job tonight. You're going to leave inspired, but you're also going to leave, most importantly, don't miss this, equipped. Because it's not enough just to want to get to the next level. You need a key to unlock that door that's in front of you. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I so appreciate you guys being punctual while I get my screen up and ready. I just want somebody to drop in the chat. What grade are we in? What grade are we in the chat? I want to know who's here. What grade are you guys in? What grade are you guys in? Go ahead and drop it in the chat while we go ahead and get it started. My name is Jordan Green Ellis. While you're doing that, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm an award-winning speaker. I won the inaugural season of Melanin at the Mic as an inspirational speaker. So, that's an accolade, but that's not that important. I'm also an educational consultant, and I'm an author. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here with you guys tonight. I wrote a book called Caps and Gowns, All Smiles, No Frowns, The Keys to Earning a Debt-Free Degree. Now, listen, y'all, you've heard about student loans. You've heard about the college readiness process. But the reason why I'm so passionate about this topic, right, about college readiness, about preparing for the future, is because there are so many people walking around today with immense gifts, with talents, with things inside of them, right, that they either don't know or they're not pursuing. And so what happens when we don't recognize those things and when we don't pursue it, it just lies dormant or it doesn't come alive. And so my job is to, in front of every audience that I speak to, bring that into fruition, make it come alive. So that's what we're going to do tonight. I'll tell you a little bit more about me. Just do me a favor. If you agree, right, if you share the same characteristic or quality, just do me a favor, okay? Just give me a 2 in the chat. Are there any mama's boys or girls in this chat, in the chat tonight? Are you a mama's boy or are you a mama's girl? I'm going to go ahead and raise my hand. If that's you, if you got a special connection with mama, listen, y'all, that is definitely me. I am what those would call a mama's boy. And so the reason why I share with you guys that story is because my mom was an integral part to me doing exactly what I do today. The individual standing to the left of the screen in that beautiful blue suit dress, if you will, and the one in the middle as well, that's my mom, y'all. And in 2020, during the beginning stages of the pandemic, right, it was before everything really got shut down. I had went to my church. My mom's the assistant pastor. And so I went to my church one regular Wednesday evening, or what I thought would be a regular Wednesday evening, into the sanctuary, about to have a conversation with my mom. And we hadn't talked in some time, right? So we were catching up. It was before Bible study, so we had a little bit of time. And so we're talking. And she's telling me about her, she's a former educator, right? And so she's telling me about her special students. She's telling me about all the amazing work that she's doing. A great conversation, until I had this moment where I thought, hey, my mom is about to retire. She's retired, 36-year educated from Baltimore City Public Schools. That's where I'm from. And so when I asked her about her retirement, one of the things that I asked her was specifically, how are you going to sustain yourself financially? And when we got to this point in the conversation, the trajectory, the energy in the room, it changed drastically when I asked my mom this specific question. Now, listen, y'all, I was raised right. I'm respectful. I don't get into grown folks' business, as some would say, right? But when I asked my mom this question, being her youngest boy, she looked at me, and I had only seen this look on her face one time before, when my cousin was murdered when I was 16 years old. And my mother, who had taught people how to speak for nearly 4 decades, how to formulate sentences, how to put grammatically correct sentences together, literally had no words to say. She could not utter a word. She could not formulate a sentence. And the reason why is because she had been holding a secret from me and my brother for almost about 6 or 7 years at this point. And that secret that she told me was that she had used a portion of her retirement to fund my college education. And as you can imagine, that was extremely devastating for me being a little over almost 30 years old, right? But my mother working for literally almost longer than I had been living for something that she had truly deserved, making a sacrifice so that I could pursue my dreams, my goals, and aspirations. Y'all, it was extremely devastating for me. I'm not really much of a crier, right? But you know, my eyes almost started sweating in that moment, right? Because I was taken aback. And my response to her was this. I was like, Mom, why didn't you tell me? I would have never let you do that. And she responded, said, son, that's exactly why I didn't tell you, because you wouldn't have let me do that. And I learned a couple of things from that situation. At this point in time, I had already had experience in financial aid in the industry of higher education. So I knew that it was unnecessary. It was a sacrifice that I'm sure many of the moms and dads, many of the aunties and uncles, many of you parents and guardians would make. But the truth is this, y'all, you don't have to. It's an unnecessary sacrifice. It doesn't need to be made. And so I knew that from my experience. And then I also knew that I had to put something together so that no mother and son, so that no father and son, so that no mother and daughter, so that no father and daughter, so that no parent and guardian would have to have the same conversation with their child. And so from that point on, I committed to myself to preparing students for the next level in life, to preparing people, teachers, educators, administrators, students, and scholars just like you for the next level in life, whether or not they recognized they had one. And so I wrote this book called Caps and Gowns, Caps and Gowns, All Smiles and No Frowns, The Keys to Earning a Debt free degree. I mentioned Caps and Gowns University because I literally prepare students for the financial aid process. Caps and Gowns, you're going to get a glimpse of that tonight of what I do with Caps and Gowns University. We're literally going to go over all of the keys that you need to unlock that door called college tuition and fees. Now, let me tell you this, y'all. I'm going to make a couple of promises to you, like how I mentioned before. This will not be boring. You will probably, I'm not much of an entertainer. You know, I can crack a joke or two, but most importantly, right? What I want you to leave from this session is I want you to leave than what you came, but most importantly, equipped with information, y'all, because here's the truth. Nobody has to have that same conversation that my mom and I had in the beginning of 2020. And so listen, y'all, I'm asking this of you. I need you guys for a moment to lock in with me. Like, this is not just going to be a regular type of presentation. This is literally going to be life-changing. One of the most common phrases that I hear when I tell people about what I do is they always say, man, I wish I would have had that when I was in college. And my response is always, yup, me too. I wish I would have had it. Because my book cost me over $30,000, and that's on, and not in publishing, right? It cost me $30,000, over $30,000 to learn the lessons. All right, $30,000 that could have been in my pocket, preparing for baby J that's on the way, preparing for my financial future. Hear what I'm telling you. If you lock in with me today, I promise you, you're going to get information that people so desperately need, and you won't be in need of it anymore because you're going to have it. So listen, y'all, if you're going to rock out with me, I want to be a man of my word. I'm going to give you what you need, but also I have some incentives for you if you stick around to the end. I don't know if you guys saw the promotion of videos, right, that I did for you guys. But I want to treat you guys to lunch. And so how we'll do that virtually is that I'll get your information towards the end. I'm going to select a few people as well. And I'm going to send you guys, the means to be able to go ahead and get some lunch. Okay. How does that sound? Let me know how that sounds in the chat. But then also another one of the most important aspects about my institution, about my organization, is that we don't just talk about it. We walk the talk as well. Right. So we put our money where our mouth is. So everybody that's on this call, if you're a senior, you're literally going to have the opportunity to win, to get $1,000 scholarship. Are there any seniors on here? Let me check the chat. I know I asked you guys to drop it in before. I love it. Okay, Miss Shamika, your son is in the 12th grade, so you can represent your son. Your son can definitely be in the drawing for the $1,000 scholarship. All you have to do is be here. And I would encourage all of you that are here, shoot this information, let them know that they need to get here because there's going to be some valuable life-changing information. It's really ironic when there are certain types of events going on in our communities that we run to. We run to be entertained, but we don't run to get the right information. And so I want to encourage you guys tonight, if you want to change, if you want to see significant progress and change in your life and in your situation, I want to tell you this, not from a place of experiment. I want to tell you that this is from a place of experience, right? Like my mom and dad, I grew up with them. We were good, right? But we ain't have no extra. Like I didn't live a lavish life. When I went to college, hear what I'm telling you, right? Like I couldn't afford books when I went to college, so much so that I literally only bought one. I literally only bought one book my entire college career. I got resourceful, y'all. I had to figure it out. But that condition that I was in was not my conclusion. Hear what I'm telling you. Now I write books for college students so that they can go to school debt free. Hear what I'm telling you. You have to commit in your mind to get to a place where it's like, yo, I'm not going to let this information pass me by. I'm going to get it so that my life can be made better. And I don't know if that's for you. If it is for you, I just want you to lock in with me for a moment. I know there's a lot of preliminary stuff, but we got to start right so that we can get the information. So let's do this, y'all. If you are ready for the keys, this is what I do in all my presentations. I need to know. It would be different if we were in person, but we're not. It's all good. COVID is what it is, right? But if you're ready for the keys, do me a favor. Drop in the chat, I am ready for the keys, or I'm ready. Simple, 2 words. I'm ready. You can even make it a conjunction. I''M. Come on, y'all. I'm ready. Let's get ready for the keys because I promise you, this information is literally going to change your life. I see the chats roll it in. I'm ready. I love it. I love it. Miss Shamika, you asked when and where. I'm assuming that you're talking about how to get the scholarship. If you are, just clarify for me in the chat. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. My favorite book, the greatest selling book of all time, says, "In all that get understanding." And so I want to make sure that we understand. If you're talking about how to get the scholarship, all you got to do is just be here on this call tonight. Awesome. So I see a couple of I'm ready. Let's go ahead and get right into it. let's do this. Let's go back. I had a little icebreaker. I want to hear from you guys. I want to see who's in the room. If you had the opportunity to make $30,000 annually with no student loans, or $40,000 annually, that means a year, with student loans, which would you choose? Would you choose the $30,000 or would you choose the $40,000? I have an education background, so I've got my timer in my head. I'll give you 15 seconds. I love it. Mr. Eugenia Thomas says that I'm ready. I love it. Your 15 seconds now turning to 10. Shamika says $30,000. Sincere Shamika, I love it. Jubilant Jewel Heath says 30,000. I love it. I love it. Listen, y'all, I'm with the smart people. You're exactly right. That's exactly what you should choose, right? The reason why is because if you have student loans, about 25 to 30% of your income is going to be taken away to repay that. It is literally a plague. And what I've come to tell you guys today, I'm going to literally show you how I walk you through step by step of how not to subject your paychecks to the plague of student loan lenders. What I love about this information is it's evergreen. So if you have younger siblings, if you have younger students, if you have younger cousins, aunties, whatever, anybody that aspires to go to college, this information, the dates may change. You may have to turn in something on a different date, but the information is going to stay the same. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get right into it. The first thing that I want to address is our mindset. If our mindset is not right, listen, y'all, you cannot do anything with a poor mindset. And not that your mindset is poor. What I'm telling you is that you have to shift your perspective and how to approach this thing. And this is actually the first chapter of our book. It's called You've Got Wings Now. And what that speaks is to the wings that are figuratively on your back. Why would you ever have wings if you're not going to use them to fly? So that's a rhetorical question, right? The reason why I tell you that you have wings now is that those wings is this information that we're about to get. I want you to shift your mindset. And the first thing that you need to understand is that you do not need to borrow. You don't need to borrow. Okay? You do not need to borrow. That is paramount. That is where we're stepping. That's what my platform is all about. I love college readiness. You know, student loans are an option for some, but for me, for the people that I serve, from the community that I come from, student loans, you do not have to use them, but you have to have that in your mind first, because every single time that you apply for financial aid, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you are going to get offered student loans, whether you make $10,000 a year or $100,000 a year. You're always going to get offered student loans, but you do not have to take them. Hear what I'm telling you. It is an offer. It is an offer, meaning this is the option that you have. But I'm telling you that sometimes in my experience, families think that they have to choose it because it was offered to them or awarded to them. You do not have to take it. Okay? It's just an option. And we're going to eradicate that option all off the table today. But in all this information, right, I never want to be the guy that tells you not what to do or what not to do. I also want to be the guy that tells you what to do. In place of knowing that you don't need to borrow, you do need three things. The first is that you need a plan. Okay? This thing has to be strategic. Okay? You can't just mosey on and think that it's going to happen. It is not. You need information in addition to that, into that plan. Excuse me, you need information as well as adequate time, okay? You need to give yourself adequate time in order to successfully complete your college degree or your student's college degree with little to no student loan debt. And here's what I like to say, y'all. If you do not have a plan, hear what I'm telling you, you will borrow. If you don't have a plan, you will be forced to borrow. That time piece is really, really important. I don't want to harp too much on it because we have so much information to cover tonight, y'all. And do me a favor. If you have at any point in time a question that you want to be answered, drop it in the chat. We're going to have a time for question and answer towards the end. Okay? We're going to have a specific time for that towards the end. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move forward. College is an investment for the future, okay? One of the most powerful forms of investing is called compound interest. Little bits of money over a long period of time. Do you know that a penny double in 30 days? Every single day, a penny double in 30 days is literally over $10 million. You can do the math. You can fact check me. I'm not above reproach. I'm not offended. You can do your own research. And so while that's an extreme case, right? That's typically what ever happened in real life. But can you imagine over 30 years how you making deposits, small deposits into your college education or small deposits into your scholar's college education, how it will pay dividends for you in the future? And so we can't just think. We got to address that mindset. We're not just spending money on college anymore, y'all. This is not something we're buying. Yes, you do have to spend money, but what this is an investment for the future. Do me a favor, just because I like the interaction, it'd be different if we were in the room. I just need you to do me a favor, type it in the chat, investment. It's on the screen, investment. Do me a favor, type it in the chat. Your college education, your scholars out college education is an investment for the future. You're not just spending money. You are investing in the livelihood of your family's future. Here's a statistic. You can fact check me again. Like how I said, I'm not above reproach. I want you to know that I'm telling the truth. It is statistically proven that those who do not obtain a formal degree, whether it be a 2-year, 4-year technical or trade school, if you do not have a formal sense of education, then you will earn $1 million less over the span of your work career, meaning between the time when you start working and the time when you retire, you will earn $1 million less because you don't have that piece of paper, y'all. I don't want you to get it twisted. I don't want you to get it confused. Hear what I'm telling you. A lot of people are bashing college because they're talking about all the debt that you're incurring, and they're talking about the instability of the job market or the instability of the job market or whatever. Listen, y'all, I don't want you to think that college is the most viable option for many people in our communities. It is the most viable option. You simply having that piece of paper is going to set you apart from many people that are applying for the same types of jobs, let alone where you have the credentials, but you'll also have a set of experiences that are going to formulate and mold and make you into who you're supposed to be. Can I tell you that if I didn't go to college, none of you guys would know me. The experiences that I have, the fraternity that I joined, the people that I met, hear what I'm telling you. It was all because I spent 4 years at Coppin State University. And I don't want you to miss out on something that's going to make you who you're supposed to be. Why? Because you've got destiny, y'all. Don't let nobody tell you anything different. Don't let nobody lie to you and tell you that you can't be all that you want to be. Don't let nobody lie to you and tell you that you can't accomplish and do great things on this earth. You can do it, but you got to put in the work. You've got to invest for the future. If you've got that key, tell me in the chat, I got it. If you got the key, tell me in the chat, I've got it. You can make it a conjunction. You can type it all the way out. I just need to know if you got it. And again, like how I said, my favorite book and all that get understanding. I love it. Jubilant Jewel Heath has got it. I love it. Let's go ahead and move forward. Oh, we're going backwards. Hold on, y'all. We got to go forward, never backwards. I love it. Here's key number 2. Here's key number 2, one of my favorite keys, y'all. Here's one of my favorite keys. Don't get caught by surprise. I know y'all thinking, man, he's moving really, really fast. I am intentionally, but if you need me to slow down, I promise you I will. And this is being recorded. And to my knowledge, you will be able to reference this moving forward, okay? Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm moving fast intentionally because we have a lot of information that we've got to cover. Don't get caught by surprise. Don't think too deep, y'all. Swim up. They want their money, okay? College is a business first. And in fact, your tuition and fees, what you have to pay, what you're investing is due before the semester actually starts. So if your classes start on August the 15th, they're going to be requiring that payment before you even step foot on campus. I told you guys in the intro video, I told you guys in the promo video that I almost got kicked out of college a few different times because I didn't have money to pay. Because I didn't have the money set in place of how I was going to pay for it, right? So you don't want to get caught by surprise. Start early on. This is one of those intricate parts about giving yourself adequate time, all right? For those of you all that are seniors, for those of you all that are in high school, even you middle school, elementary schoolers, in Caps and Gowns, which you will get a copy of, you will see actionable steps of what you can do on every single level. So all of you parents that are on the call tonight, don't make the mistake of thinking that you can wait until your scholar gets in high school. I want you to start today, okay? In Caps and Gowns, we talk all about that. Let's move forward. Let's continue moving forward. Awesome. Here's one of the things that I do with my scholars in Caps and Gowns University, and when I do these presentations all around the country. I want you to create your list of top 10 schools. I want you to create your top 10 list. That's what I call it, okay? Create your top 10 list, all right? And your top 10 list will consist of your top 10 schools that you would want to go to. Okay, no boundaries. Don't worry about how much it costs. Whatever school you want to go to, give me at least 10. All right, put them on the list. But I also want you to write down the associated cost, as well as the admissions requirements, as well as the program of study that you desire to look into when you get to that institution. Okay, so you can put it on a spreadsheet. You can write it on a piece of paper. Whatever you want to do, what works for you. Okay, I want you to compile your top 10 schools. I want you to compile your top 10 schools. All right. Coppin State University, Cleveland State University, Wayne State University, Florida State University, etc. I want you to write down what are the requirements to get into the school. What are the ACT scores that they request? What are the SAT scores that they request? What's the GPA score that they request? How much it costs to attend the institution. Listen, y'all, you've heard me say this term a couple of times, and I'll say it again. Tuition and fees, okay? There's a difference. Tuition and fees. There's a cost to attend the institution, but there are also fees that are attached in addition to the tuition, like room and board, like a meal plan, like the technical fee, like the health department fee, or like the health insurance fee. Okay. In caps and gowns, we talk all about that. But I also give you guys some hidden keys, y'all. There are some fees that you don't necessarily have to pay for when you're an undergraduate at institutions that are for your institution fully enrolled. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But make sure that you put this list together, right? At the bottom, you see how I have it in red with the asterisk around it, right? Don't miss this step. Don't make the mistake of thinking that this step is not important. Shout out to Miss Fitzgerald that just jumped on. Thank you so much for all the amazing work that you've done, but most importantly, what you're going to do. We thank you for your commitment to East Cleveland City Schools, all the scholars, all the educators, all the teachers, all the work that you've done. Thank you so much. Let's get back to this, though. Don't think that this step is insignificant, okay? The reason why is this. All of you all that are on this call have aspirations to go to college. Okay, whether it's little or whether it's large, you desire to go to college, right? You desire to obtain a degree, whether it be in biology, whether it be in mathematics, social studies, whatever, right? You desire to go to college, right? And so that ambition is good, but it's not enough. That goal is good, but it's not enough. Did you hear what I said? I said it's not enough. So what else do you need? You need those three things that we talked about. You need to give yourself adequate time. You need to give yourself a plan, and you need to pursue this thing like your life depends on it, because it does, y'all. I'm telling you this for sure. You need to have these things on paper so that you'll have a target to hit. That ambition for you to go to college is like a dart, okay? It's like a dart. And so if you don't have anything to throw your dart at, you don't know what to throw your dart at. And do you know what else is going to happen subconsciously, especially for the communities that we are in, especially for many of the communities that I serve, right? As a speaker, as an educational consultant, if you don't give yourself a target, or in other words, if you don't give yourself a vision, somebody else is going to give you their own vision. And what's going to happen? That ambition for you to go to college is going to slowly drift away. And you're going to start to use that ambition for something else. That dart, you're going to start throwing at the vision that somebody else gave you. And so that vision that you have to get that 4-year degree, that vision that you have to go to law school, that vision that you have to obtain a master's degree, that vision that you have to have PhD at the end of your name is paramount. And that's what your life is supposed to be. But too many people wander through life not pursuing their vision, not having a target for their darts to hit. And what happens is somebody else gives them their own target. And so I don't want you to make the mistake of not using this tool. Create your top 10 list. Do me a favor really quick. I just want to see who's in the room. What schools are you guys thinking about? Where do you guys want to go to college? It can be anything. I just want to hear it. I just want to see what you guys are thinking about while I move forward to the next step. If you're ready for the next key, just do me a favor while you're writing in the chat. Just say to yourself, I'm ready for the next key while we move forward. I love it. CSU, I'm assuming that's Cleveland State University. Cleveland State University. I would love to meet your son. If your son could jump on, I would love to just greet him and say hello if he's available. But if not, we can definitely move forward. Make sure that he watches this. Awesome. Cleveland State University, an awesome institution. Let's go ahead and key number 3. Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. That's Case Western. Okay. Awesome. I love Case Western. Awesome. Awesome. Let's go ahead and go to key number 3. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thinking about Spelman, thinking about Kenyon. You're going to have to refresh, teach me, because I'm not sure what Kenyon is. I'm assuming that that's an institution probably in the Midwest somewhere, but I love it. These are all great institutions. I love it. Somebody unmuted. I just want to make sure I didn't skip anybody. Awesome. Let's keep moving forward. Awesome. I love it. Let's talk about this at some points in times, what I like to call a taboo topic, y'all. It's unfortunate, but it doesn't have to be taboo, y'all. We're going to talk about federal student aid. We're going to talk about the FAFSA. It stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Okay? Keyword is free. All right? Do not let nobody try to sell you that they can complete their FAFSA for you. Sure, of course they could, right? But it's free, okay? It's not a service. Someone can advise you. Someone can give you information. Someone can give you a book like How Mine, but don't let anybody charge you to complete the FAFSA for you, okay? You can do it on your own. It is very, very simple, okay? Simple as in all the information is literally coming from you, all right? Here's one of the number one keys, right? A mistake that I see many people make. They think that they make too much money, or they don't think that they're going to get grants from the federal government, okay? The FAFSA is facilitated by the Department of Education, which is the federal government, or the feds, if you will, okay? Pre-application for federal student aid. So the Department of Education is one of the main sources of funds for college education, but the main source are federal student loans. Write this down, y'all, because I want you to remember and never ever forget it. This is the reason why we don't need to borrow. The federal student loan industry is a $1.9 trillion industry. I said trillion with a T. 77% of college students, including myself, college graduates, graduate with at least $30,000 of student loans. We're going to talk about why, and we're going to talk about how to eradicate that. It's a $1.9 trillion industry, and it's grown. When I wrote the book, it was only about like $1.6 trillion. Now it's about 1.9 and still growing. All right. Here's the most important thing about the FAFSA. Always do the FAFSA. It's a non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable. Always, 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 always do the FAFSA. Okay. It's not an option. Always do the FAFSA. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Okay. FAFSA offers an array of awards that can contribute to your debt-free degree. Yes, they do offer student loans, but they also offer a vast array of awards that do not require you to borrow or free money or debt-free funds. Okay. Here's another really important step. Unfortunately, this is at the end of October, right? But it's vitally important that you are punctual in completing your FAFSA. Remember how I talked about that punctuality piece? Thank you all for being on time, right? It is vitally important that you are punctual in completing your FAFSA. Listen, not just one time, not just when the babies are about to go, not just when your sons are about to go or your daughters are about to go, but every single year that they are in college, every single year that they enroll, every single year that they're planning to enroll. Hear me, y'all, don't make this mistake. Let's say, for example, Johnny steps out a semester and is planning to go back the next fall, the coming fall, right? But they don't know how they're going to pay for it. Still do the FAFSA, even if you don't know. Why? Because the debt-free funds, listen to me closely, are first come, first serve. Nobody's going to tell you that. Only reason why I know is because I worked in the industry. They are first come, first serve. And every institution that is federally funded has an amount that they are limited to spending for their institution. That amount can change from year to year. They can get a new budget, so on and so forth, right? But you won't have access to that information. It's vitally important that you complete it as close to October 1st as possible. Everybody that's in Caps and Gowns University, prior to October 1st, we're sitting down, having one-on-ones, creating our individual action plans so that we can map out how to most effectively plan for college and tuition fees, as well as complete that FAFSA as close to October 1 as possible. Everybody in my program, listen, I say this not to impress you, but to impress a point upon you. Everybody that's in my program completes their FAFSA on October 1. It's vitally important, okay? Going back to that piece about adding those 10 schools on your FAFSA, right? I encourage you to add at least 10 schools. Well, you can add up to 10, right? But I encourage you to add those schools that are on your list. If you go to a school, let's say you apply to a school outside of your list of 10, right? If you apply to a school outside of your list of 10, they're not going to be able to see your financial aid information if you don't put it on your FAFSA, okay? Cleveland State can't just pull your FAFSA if you haven't designated them to pull your FAFSA. Does that make sense? I don't want you to miss that. Give me a 3 in the chat if that makes sense. Any school can't just, random schools can't just pull your FAFSA, okay? You have to allow them. You have to give them permission. Awesome. So make sure. And here's the thing too, you can always go back and change it and or update it. So once it's not set in stone, okay? It's not set in stone. So you can always go back to change it, but make sure that you add those 10 schools. Okay. I think somebody unmuted. I don't know if we had a question, but if you have a question, make sure that you just go ahead and drop it in the chat. Make sure that you go ahead and just drop it in the chat. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move forward. Still talking about federal student aid. We're going to talk a lot about federal student aid tonight, y'all. It's really, really important. All right, we're going to talk about the different types of awards. Like how I mentioned, they're going to always offer you loans. The 3 different types of loans that you'll see from the FAFSA or the Department of Education or the federal government are subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, and or parent plus loans, y'all. Y'all see this little asterisk right here? I put the asterisk right there because the parent plus loans are the devil, okay? Don't ever take them. Don't ever take them. Especially for you parent. That's going to be on you, not your daughter or not your son. Okay. Don't ever take it. Interest rates are crazy and they expect you to repay ASAP. Okay. You're not going to be, you're not going to have that grace period like a student would that's taking out a sub or unsubsidized loan. Okay. The difference between the two, the subsidized loans and the unsubsidized loans have different loan and term agreements. And so the subsidized loan, you're not going to be, well, both the sub and the unsub, you're not going to be in repayment until you graduate or you stop attending the institution 6 months after you graduate or 6 months after you stop attending an institution. You won't be in repayment until then. But the subsidized loan does not accrue interest until you stop attending or graduate. Okay? The subsidized loan does not accrue interest until you stop attending or graduate. Subsidized loans are also need-based, okay? So if you have financial need, okay, which is a loaded term, there are a lot of loaded terms in the financial aid industry, but everybody has a level of financial need. But those who have, quote unquote, more financial need, and that's not determined by us, that's determined by the federal government, those will get those individuals or those families will get the subsidized loans first. Unsubsidized are just the opposite. The moment that you press accept, it begins to accrue interest. Interest rates will differ every single year. You'll actually have a loan fee that will come out of that loan. So let's say, for instance, you'll get $6,000 loan. That $6,000 loan will be split between 2 semesters. So you'll get $3,000 for the fall, $3,000 for the spring, and then there's going to be a loan fee that's taken out. So that $3,000 for the fall and spring is actually going to be about $28,895. Okay, so it's really a lose-lose. Okay, so they're winning on the interest and they're of the loan fee, and they're winning on the interest of the loan, y'all. I'm telling you, you do not need to borrow. Here is my admonishment to you. If you are in a situation where you have done all the necessary steps, in theory, you won't have to borrow. But if something, and a circumstance comes up, something that you cannot control, your financial status changes, you lose an award, whatever it may be, and you have to borrow, take the sub first before the unsub, right? And pay it off as quickly as possible. Why? Because you won't be paying the interest for the sub because it doesn't accrue until after you graduate. Don't wait to pay it off. But if you use all these steps, I promise you, you won't have to do it. Let's go ahead and move forward. We're still on federal student aid. Let's talk about the good. Let's talk about the good money, the debt-free money. Let's talk about the better part, if you will. Let's talk about the grants, okay? So here are 2 main types of grants that are both need-based, okay? The first is the Pell grant, as well as the federal SEOG. I think it's called Supplementary Educational Opportunity Grant. That's what it stands for. All of those words are insignificant. The most important part is that you complete the FAFSA so that you can qualify for these, okay? If Jordan Green Ellis completes my FAFSA, if I complete my FAFSA on October 1 and Miss Gerald completes her FAFSA on October the 2nd, and all of the students at the institution that are eligible for Pell and SEOG or FSEOG get that award, and they run out by the time they get to those FAFSAs on October 2, they're going to be short, okay? It's vitally important that you complete this punctually, as close to October 1 as possible. Again, like how I mentioned, these 2 awards are need-based. Again, financial need, everybody that attends college has a level of financial need, okay? And this is where it becomes a little bit controversial. I'll just go ahead and be on record and say that the federal government isn't really favorable to the middle and upper class as it pertains to grants from the federal government, right? So if you are not in those categories, more than likely you will get these awards. Okay, so that's good. These are debt-free awards. They do not accrue interest. It's literally like a gift, if you will. It's literally like a gift that you don't have to repay. You can use it for your college tuition and fees, right? And it's from the federal government. These are the types of awards that we want. Okay, does that make sense? Give me a 3 in the chat if that makes sense. I just need to know really quickly. Just give me a 3 in the chat if that makes sense. I love it. These are the types of awards that we want. Okay. And again, if you have any questions, please, y'all, it is above all else, more than anything, this information is literally going to change the lives of those who apply it. I meant to say this at the beginning, y'all. Somebody lied to you when they told you that knowledge is power. It's not. Knowledge in and of itself is not powerful. Applied knowledge is powerful, y'all. So I don't want you to think that this information is going to change your life just because you know it. It's only going to change it if you apply it. Okay. So let's move forward. Let's continue to talk about some more offerings from the federal government. Awesome. This one may not be applicable to those students, but I also wanted to share this information for those parents that perhaps want to go back and finish a degree or pursue another degree. Actually, let me go back to the Pell and the SEOG, or the federal SEOG. These 2 awards are going to be for first-time undergraduate students. So if you already have an undergraduate degree, again, this is not applicable to the students that are in school right now. For those parents, aunties and uncles, anybody that wants to pursue another degree, if you already have one, you're not going to be able to qualify for those degrees, for those grants. Same thing with the Iraq and Afghanistan service grant. There are a little bit more contingencies with this one, but the federal government honors those families who served in the U.S. military, who passed during the time of the Afghanistan and Iraq war, after the events of 9/11. If you were in college under the age of 24 and your parents were enrolled in the U.S. Armed Forces and they passed during that time, you'll be eligible for this particular grant. For institutions that offer it. Not every institution offers this type of grant. More than likely, most institutions offer the Pell and the federal SEOG. Okay, but not every institution offers the Iraq and Afghanistan service grant. Let me also tell you too, going back to that list of top 10 schools, right? In addition to talking about the tuition and fees, the admissions requirements, right? I want you to literally contact the financial aid office and ask them if they take federal student aid, if they take aid from the FAFSA, because not every institution does. Okay. There's a private institution in my hometown, Owens Mills, Maryland, called Stevenson University. And it is to my knowledge, I do not think that they take federal student aid. Okay. And they can do that because they're a private institution. Okay. So every institution may differ in their requirements and what they have to offer. So make sure that you incorporate that in your top 10 list. Let's move forward. Sorry, y'all, never backwards. Let's move forward. Let's talk about another grant. Here's another Teach grant. Are there any individuals on this call that are interested in studying education? Just give me a 1 in the chat if so. If so, you definitely want to pay attention to the Teach grant, okay? Now, this grant is a little bit different in nature than the Pell and the SEOG. This is a grant, but it has stipulations. It has contingencies. There's a catch, if you will. Does that make sense? I really want you to answer me if that makes sense. There's a catch with this grant. It's good, but you have to fulfill what is required of you so that you don't have to pay this grant back. Okay? Here are a couple of the requirements. You got to complete the FAFSA. You must have that thing. Remember, financial need. You must have financial need. Of course, everybody has that, but the financial need is going to be determined by the institution as well as the federal government. You must be enrolled in an eligible program. Again, not every institution offers the Teach grant. Okay? You must meet their own academic requirements, and you obviously must sign the agreement. To my knowledge, I think the agreement is that you have to teach in a specific area. I think they consider it to be low income area, whatever that means. You have to teach for a certain amount of years in that area. And I think it's about 5 years. You have to commit 5 years. And essentially they'll pay a portion of your college tuition and fees. Okay, if anybody's interested in education, this is definitely going to be a viable option. Definitely going to be a viable option. The TEAS grant stands for Teacher Education Assistance for College and Higher Education. Great. Awesome. Let's move forward. I told y'all we're gonna do a whole lot about the federal student aid piece tonight, y'all. This is an integral piece. This is an important part that I don't want you guys to miss. Do me a favor, give me a 2 in the chat if you've ever heard of work study. If you ever heard the term work study before, give me a 2 in the chat. If you ever heard of work study, I love it. I see the 2s rolling in. Excuse me, y'all. The 2s rolling in. If you ever heard of work study, y'all, listen. Work study is a federally funded program. I love it. Work study is a federally funded program. You have to complete the FAFSA in order to be eligible for federal work study. Yes, you can get a contractual job on campus. We'll talk about that at a later date. When you get your copy of the book, I think I talk about that in chapter 5. I have a whole chapter dedicated for all of you students that are, or excuse me, all of you parents who have students that are in college right now that are already borrowing. In my book, I have an emergency action chapter where I teach how to decrease student loan usage while you're already in college. Contractual job is a part of that. But let's get back to work study. Work study is a federally funded program, and this is grant-like, okay? Except that you have to actually earn the funds, okay? You got to go to work in order to earn the funds, but you will be awarded a paycheck, right? And those funds are intended to be used for your college tuition and fees. They're intended to be used for college tuition and fees. Let me be perfectly clear, y'all. When you are getting money from the federal government, okay, this is the federal government, okay, and I make emphasis on federal government because they got access to all your information, bank accounts, IRS, taxes, all of that type of stuff, okay. When I was in the industry and we did financial trainings with the federal government or the Department of Education, we would hear stories about individuals who were under investigation because they misappropriated funds from the federal government. Student loans, grants, things of that nature. And long story short, the results weren't good for the individual who misappropriated the funds, okay? These funds are intended to be for the college tuition and fees or anything college related. So like if you need books, if you're living on campus and you have a meal plan, etc., things of that nature, but it has to be related to your paying for tuition and fees. And so, all right, so Sincere Tamika, I see you put something in the chat. And so I understand exactly why you would say it's not worth it. But here's the reason why. The reason why I believe and that I think that this should be a viable option for you is because these are funds that you don't have to repay. Number one. Number two, it's only going to be about part-time. So if you're a student that's in college and you actually do need funds, you'll have more time during the week to actually earn funds elsewhere. Okay. Also, the work study is not like a real job, if you will. It's more like just exposure. So when I was working in the financial aid industry, we had work study students in our office, and with all due respect, they really just kind of like made copies and things like that. Okay, so it will differ from office to office, but the reason why this is a viable option is because it does not incur debt, meaning you don't have to pay it back. In so many ways, you can think of it as free money, if you will. I hope that makes sense. But here's the catch too. Again, you have to work for it. You got to go to work. You got to clock in. You got to clock out. Okay. You also, on your FAFSA, you have to select your interest. There's a question, I forget what number it is on your FAFSA, that asks you, are you interested in federal work study? Always select yes, even if you don't think you'll qualify for it, even if you don't think you might not want to do it. Parents, I need you to flex the parent muscle. Okay. You the parent. Okay. You the parent. So be the parent. Yes, select that button. I don't want to work. Listen, get that free money. Does that make sense? Are we on the same page? Before we move forward, I just need to know that. I need the parents to flex that parent muscle, okay? If you agree, just give me a 1 in the chat if that makes sense. Do me a favor, give me a 1 in the chat. Make sure that on their FAFSA that they select their interest in wanting to be selected for federal work study. I love it. I love it. In addition to that, y'all, this is the reason why it's so vitally important. When your student, when your scholar graduates from college, they're going to pursue a job. One of the things that many employers are looking for are people who are already qualified. Yes, they have the degree, but people who already have experience, field experience. Okay? And so that field experience can be gained by a federal work-study position. There's an individual on my team who couldn't make it tonight. Her name is Miss Janelle Harris. She's been in higher education for over a decade. She's the Associate Director of Admissions at Coppin State University, my alma mater. But how she got into the industry was through a work-study position. Hear what I'm telling y'all. This is an amazing opportunity. It can literally change your life. Make sure that you apply, make sure that you select your interest for it on the FAFSA, and make sure that you get that free money, y'all. It's literally out there. There are times when I was in the industry, this would be before we move. Matter of fact, this will be the last thing that I do before we take a quick break. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Heath. I can keep going if need be, but I think we're supposed to take a break. Last thing that I'll say is that these funds are going to be an access point for you guys. So don't miss them. There were times, y'all, where in the office that I worked in, where we had monies or funds for federal work study students, right? That was not being used because people didn't apply for it, because people didn't express interest. The money is there. Okay, the money is there. Awesome. We'll take a 5-minute break in 3 more minutes. Let's continue to move forward. Make sure that you select your interest. Oh, I don't know why these technical difficulties are giving me a hard time today, but we're always moving forward. Here are some of the forms that you'll need in order to complete your FAFSA. Okay, write this down or make sure that you make a mental note. If your scholar has a license, they will need their license. They're going to request that be on the FAFSA application. If you are self-employed and you have a 1099, you should have your 1099. You're going to need that information, as well as if you have a 9-to-5 job. If you are an entrepreneur, right, and you have your payroll set up, right, you need your W-2. That's your annual gross net revenue, etc. Excuse me. You'll need that information. You'll also need your Social Security information. This is not just for the student, okay? This is also for the parents and guardians as well. This will be applicable for the vast majority of the students that are on this call and for the families that are on this call, because 99% of you guys will be considered to be dependent students, meaning somebody takes care of you. Mom and dad are there, auntie and uncle there, grandma, grandpapa there, so on and so forth. So you'll need both of their information, both Social Securities, both 1099s, both W-2s, both licenses, so on and so forth. You'll need your 1040 or your IRS tax returns, okay? Again, those forms that we fill out every year, you'll need that. If you do not file taxes, okay, do not think that is a reason that you can't complete the FAFSA. There's an option. There are 2 other options on the FAFSA that you can select just to get it in. Get the FAFSA in. Get it in. There's an option if there's an option that says I've filed. There's an option that says I do not plan to file, right? Because there are instances where individuals, have a certain level of income and they're not required to file taxes. Put that on there, okay? But then there's also an option on there that says I plan to file. Okay, so even if let's say it's October 1 and you haven't filed your taxes for whatever reason, you have extenuating circumstances, something happened, somebody passed away, etc. Select that option for I will file and get the FAFSA in. Okay, you'll need to create a FAFSA FSA ID, so that you can sign electronically. Also, that ID and that PIN number is going to allow you to save your progress during your application, because you'll be able to stop and come back to it if necessary. Okay, if you have any untaxed income, if you got a side hustle, the federal government wants to know. Bank statements, records of investments, if that's applicable to you, you want to have record of all of that so that you can implement that on the FAFSA. Now, y'all thinking exactly what I was thinking when I was filling this out when I was a youngin' about 10 years ago. Still a youngin', but younger, rather, I should say. Why they need to know all this information? Okay, so from the federal government standpoint, they want to know all this information so that they can accurately award you. Okay, do not make the mistake of trying to, and listen, I say it like that because many families that I've encountered have made the mistake to think that they can evade this part or put information that's not completely accurate on this part. And you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You want to be honest about it, because here's the thing, y'all. I know that you want your baby to go to college, but there actually may be somebody else who needs more than you. So you don't want to take from their plate, number one. Number two, the way that I'm going to teach you guys is not going to really matter, right? If you get grants or not from the federal government. But there's a reason why you still want to do it. And we'll talk about that when we come back. It's 4:55. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Listen, y'all, do me a favor. If you've learned something in this first 55 minutes or so, we've still got a little bit more time left. If you've gleaned some valuable information, just do me a favor. Drop a number 3 in the chat if you've learned something really quickly. Drop a 3 in the chat. I love it. I love it. We've learned some new information. We're getting prepared. We're getting ready. I love it. I love it. Enthusiastic Ebony, thank you so much for jumping on. I love it. Awesome. Andrea Parks, thank you so much for jumping on. Let's go ahead and take that 5-minute break. I'll see you guys in a couple of minutes. Don't touch that dial because it's going to get gooder and gooder. Yes, I said gooder and gooder. Don't judge me. I love you guys. I'll see you back in a couple of minutes.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you in a minute.
Awesome. It is 5 o'clock. That was our 5-minute break. I know that it went by really quickly, but I promise you it's going to get better than what it was before. Do me a favor really quickly, y'all. If you can see my screen, if you can hear my voice and see my face clearly, do me a favor and give me a 2 in the chat. Just want to make sure that we're all still here. So we left off here on how to prepare for the FAFSA, all the forms that we will need. It is vitally important, y'all. It is vitally important that we get this information and turn that FAFSA in. And I'll go into a little bit more depth about that a little bit later. So we'll continue to move forward with this information. Oh, this thing is killing me. Maybe it's because I'm clicking on the wrong side. Awesome. All right, here we go. Here are two terms, one that you will hear when completing the FAFSA, another that you'll hear when you're working with me, okay? The EFC, okay? Do me a favor, type in these three letters, EFC, and it stands for Estimated Family Contribution. Estimated Family Contribution, EFC, okay? And it's exactly what it says. This is the estimated amount of what your family, according to the federal government, can contribute to your students' college tuition and fees, okay? That's the EFC. That's the estimate based on the information, the financial information that you put on the FAFSA. That's the estimate. Don't worry too much about this number, okay? It's going to range, okay? It's going to be whatever criteria that they have. Now, the federal government has their own criteria in regards to how they determine financial need and who has more and who has less, and how they come up with EFC, right? That's not public information. You have to work for them in order to know that. But that number you will see once you complete the FAFSA. Here's a term that I use, AFC. Go ahead and put that in the chat. Not the NFL, not like, the division in the NFL, okay? This is the AFC of financial aid, your actual family contribution, okay? What can your family contribute to your college tuition and fees? It may be zero, which is perfectly fine. It may be zero. Why? Because we got the keys, y'all. We got the keys. We got the right information that's going to change our situation. So I say this because there are families that I work with that actually do have funds that they've invested, that they've set aside for their scholars' tuition and fees when they go to college. And so all of that plays a part, right? I know we want to use other people's money, right? But if you have yours, it's just as good. Why? It was set aside for that specific purpose, as well as it does not incur debt. Okay, so here are two terms that you'll see commonly and you'll hear commonly when working with me, EFC and AFC. All right, we talked a little bit earlier about being truthful on our FAFSA application. Here's the reason why. There's another step in the process called verification that is not always required, but typically happens in my experience when families are not truthful on their FAFSA. They'll get selected for verification. The rhetoric that I was taught, what I was exposed to as an industry professional is that it's a random selection. But in my experience in working hand in hand with those randomly selected students is because they omitted information, they weren't truthful, so on and so forth. I'm not calling nobody a liar. I'm just saying, tell the truth, y'all, because they're going to find out. What the verification process is that they're going to request an additional set of information. It could be the prior tax year. So just to give you some more context, for the 2021-2022 academic year, you will submit the IRS tax return from the year 2020, so last year. But if you were selected for verification, they may require you to submit 2019's tax information. Why? Because they want to make sure that it adds up. What they'll say is that we want to make sure that we're awarding you accurately. Does that make sense? But really what it is, they're trying to see, are you telling the truth? Okay. Does that make sense? Give me a 3 in the chat if that makes sense. I just want to make sure that we are on the same page. Verification is not a requirement, but some students actually do randomly get selected. But I always throw in that caveat about, being forthcoming about your financial situation. Don't worry about getting enough awards. We're going to teach you how to get enough awards, okay? So that verification process is not for everybody, but it will be for some. I just want to make you aware of it so that you're not caught by surprise. Awesome. If you are a biological male, okay, if you are a man, then you will have to register for the selective services. If you're between the ages of 18 and 25, you will have to register, not to submit your FAFSA, but to receive the awards, to actually get them, to pay for your tuition and fees. You have to register for the selective services. If you're a biological male, like on your birth certificate, okay? If you're a biological male, you have to register for selective services. Why? Beats me. That's one of those weird red tape things that the federal government does, okay? You'll get awarded, you'll turn your FAFSA in, they'll say you're good to go, but when it comes time to actually pay the money, they're gonna be like, yeah, nah, we can't pay it out until you do this. You don't want that to be a barrier, okay? You do not want that to be a barrier. You don't want nothing holding you back. Is there an exception if you're an only child or only son? No. Great question. There's not an exception. Great question. At all, if you fit in this criteria, biological male between the ages of 18 and 25, you must register for it. Great question. All right, here's a warning for you guys. And I intentionally made this slide like this so that I would stop. The federal government will give you all these debt-free funds. They'll give you the loans and all of that stuff. But what they will not tell you, your financial aid will not tell you, is that your financial aid office will not tell you, is that you can actually lose these awards, y'all. You can actually lose these awards. How will you lose them? If you do not meet the requirements. One of the standard requirements for federal funds is that you must maintain at least a 2.0 cumulative GPA. Do not miss this, y'all. When I was working in the industry, I got stories for days, y'all. To be honest with y'all, 2 hours ain't enough for me because I could talk till 10 o'clock. But I'm gonna end it too. I'm not gonna keep y'all till 10 o'clock. I know y'all got the weekend and stuff. Quick story. When I was in the industry, I talked to a mom literally who was preparing to send her student to where I was working from the time he was about to graduate from high school to the end of his freshman year. And I had this exact conversation with that family, with that mom and with that son. We got him into the school. He wasn't doing so well academically, but we got him into the school. And I said, listen, don't make the mistake of coming to this school and thinking that you can't handle you don't got to handle your business. You will lose these funds and it ain't gonna be nothing that anybody can do for you. Came to the institution, did whatever he did, got below a 2.0 and lost those funds. It's called satisfactory academic progress. You must maintain, listen, it's 2 parts. You must maintain at least a 2.0 cumulative GPA, not semester, cumulative, meaning all of your courses, right? Must maintain at least a 2.0. And this is like financial aid jargon. Don't let it go over your head. I'll make it simple. You must maintain, or excuse me, you must complete at least 67% of the classes that you register for. You must complete at least 67%, meaning when this will be more applicable when you get closer to enrolling into college, but sometimes students will enroll in a class and then drop out, not out of school, but they'll drop the class because it was too hard. It wasn't what they expected, so on and so forth. Extenuating circumstances, somebody passed away, whatever, right? For whatever reason, they'll drop the class. But if you drop too many of them and your completion rate drops below 67%, you'll lose your aid. Don't miss this, y'all. Give me a 4 in the chat if that makes sense. Those 2 stipulations will cause your financial aid from the federal government to be revoked. You must maintain at least a 2.0 cumulative GPA, okay? And you must complete at least 67% of the classes that you register for, okay? So let's say you go to your first, semester and you don't do well, right? You don't do well for a year. You get on academic probation, then you have a good semester. That may not bring up your GPA to where it needs to be. So in order to evade and avoid this entire process, y'all, go handle your business. College will be as hard as the time that you use to manage it. Yes, I'm just looking at your question, Ms. Heath. We can talk about it a little bit more, but yes, that's exactly what it's for. It's for a potential draft. In the event that there's a draft, that's exactly why they want you to register your sons for the selective services. Let's move forward. Oh, I think I hit it too many times. Awesome. Key number 4. I don't know if we have any boxing fans on here, y'all, but the reason why I said that we're not going to worry too much about what we're getting or not getting from the federal government, because it's not really favorable to many families, right? The reason why I say that we're not going to harp too much on it is because of the 1-2 combo. Okay, this is literally a fight. You can't just throw a jab. You got to throw a hook. Okay, many people, many families lose this fight because they don't know how to fight. Okay, so here's the 1-2 combo, y'all. Your FAFSA awards ain't going to be enough. More than likely, they're not going to be enough. Okay, even the highest amount that you can get for the Pell grant is less than $7,000. Okay, that amount changes from year to year, but this year it's only about $7,000. That ain't going to pay for most people, right? And so you need the 1-2 combo. You need the federal student aid and you need outside scholarships. I like that jab and that hook right there. I'm just playing, but I'm serious. Listen, y'all need to have this 1-2 combo because your FAFSA awards more than likely are not going to be enough. Okay, you need those third-party awards, and we're going to dive deeply into that right about now. Let's get into it. All right, you must include that And like I said, you must include that in your plan of action, like how we talked about at the beginning, those debt-free funds. Okay, here's a type of debt-free funds, right? Here's one type, scholarships. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Now, I have on this first bullet point that they're typically the hardest to obtain, right? And I put an asterisk there because that's going to differ from where you're applying and who you're applying to, right? But they're the hardest to obtain in most cases because there are requirements, there are things that you have to do to apply for, so on and so forth, right? But we'll talk about there are different types where the application process is literally just entering your name. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit in a couple of slides. They usually require application. Here's a common myth. Most families that I encounter think that you have to be super academically gifted or super smart or have a really high GPA to get a scholarship, or you have to be super athletically gifted to get a scholarship. Y'all, I used to work in Southeast Washington, D.C. At a school that I genuinely love. I consult with them now from time to time, but when I was there, right, I had a student, Southeast Washington, D.C. is in my estimation, much like East Cleveland, right? And so I had a student there who looks like me, and he had aspirations to play professional football, right? Many of us had those same aspirations growing up, right? But he had never played organized sports ever in his life. Okay, I'm a former Division I athlete. Okay, I played sports all my life. I have family members in the NFL. One of my very good friends that I played baseball in high school with plays for the San Francisco Giants, late night Lamont, etc. So I've had experience with sports, right? He wanted to play professional sports, but I'm like, he can't even do 10 push-ups. And it's not an indictment towards him. I'm not trying to be funny. What I'm saying is that you don't have to be athletically gifted to be successful. That's not the only option. You don't have to be able to dribble a ball. And I played sports. Sports literally got me to college, or one of the things that got me to college, right? But it's not a necessity. You don't have to be artistically gifted. You don't have to be able to sing. I'm also a musician. I also sing. All those things were pieces that got me to college, but it's not a necessity, okay? You don't have to be talented to get a scholarship, okay? Here's what I was talking about before. Many scholarships require no essay. In fact, before I don't know how we're going to do it. Maybe you guys will just have to send me an email and I'll carve out time in the morning, but you got to send it to me tonight because it's time sensitive. I have a list of about 12 scholarships that are due by Sunday, right? That require no essay. So if you're a senior, if you're on here, I need you, I'm gonna send them to you just because you were here. Okay, just apply for them. Okay, awesome. Let's continue to move forward to talk about debt-free funds. All right, so we talked about that they don't necessarily have to be academic, athletic, or artistic, right? You don't have to be specifically gifted or talented to get a scholarship. Here are 4 others, okay? There are departmental scholarships, and I'll explain what that means in a second. There are departmental scholarships. There are institutional scholarships. That's 2 different things. There are organizational scholarships, and there are state scholarships. We're going to talk about those 4 things really quickly. Departmental, what I mean by that is I study sport management with a concentration in business in college, okay? So half of my degree is in sport management, the other half is in business, okay? And so the program that I studied was in the College of Business department, okay? Like at East Cleveland, at Shaw, you guys have different departments: science department, social studies department, English department, mathematics department. In college, it's the exact same thing. Many of those departments will have funds, scholarship funds, for the students who study in that department. So when you enroll, when you're planning to enroll, when you're going on college visits, when you're going to the college fairs, when you talk to these admissions representatives, ask them, are there opportunities for departmental funds at your institution? You can set it up like this. Hi, my name is Jordan Green Ellis. I'm looking to study in your business department. I was wondering, do you guys have any available funds for students in the business department? Are there any departmental funds? Just like that. Okay. And in addition to that, there are institutional funds. Okay. Don't get it twisted. There are 2 different types of, in my teachings, there's 2 different types of funds. Okay. Every 4-year institution has an organization or an office on campus that is specifically dedicated to the advancement of the institution. Where I worked, where I went to undergrad, it was called literally institutional advancement. Don't think too deep. What that means is that this group of people, these individuals, are committed to advancing the institution by any means necessary. If there are no students, then there is no institution. The number one reason why students don't come back is because they can't pay. So this Office of Institutional Advancement is going to more than likely have funds for students to stay in school. Okay? Give me a 4 in the chat if that makes sense. That was a lot of words. I don't want anybody to miss it. There's a difference between departmental. Those are two different sources that you can get debt-free funds from. Awesome. 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 I love it. Let's move forward. Organizational scholarships. This is really simple. Your Walmarts, Chick-fil-A, Amazon, Walgreens, all those. If you go to the main road in East Cleveland, or you go to a neighboring city and you see mainstream McDonald's, Burger King, all of them institutions like that, they give funds for college. Okay. If any of you guys have a job, specifically if you work at Walmart, Walmart has an initiative right now where they're literally paying for college for their employees. Okay. So if you connect it, go get it done, man. Go get it done. Again, this is an investment. This is an investment. It's a sacrifice. It's going to be some late nights. It's going to be something. I'm tired. That's fine. I know my grammar is off, but you understand what I'm saying. You're going to have moments of weakness, but it's not going to solely define who you are. It's going to make you better. It's going to make you stronger, make you who you're supposed to be. Let's move forward. The last and final one are state scholarships. And I actually did some research specifically for your state. Okay. Every single state gives benefit to students and families that attend higher education in that home state. Okay. So in Maryland, where I'm from, in Baltimore, we have what's called the Maryland Higher Education Commission. And so the Maryland Higher Education Commission is responsible for many things higher education, but specifically debt-free funds. Here in Maryland, we have different types of grants that students may be eligible for Maryland residents. But in Ohio, in Cleveland, y'all got the same thing. Every state has it. In your state, it's called Ohio Higher Ed. Okay, here's the link right here on the screen. It's called www.ohiohighered.org. Okay, ohiohighered.org. Listen, y'all, I've done the research. I know it's there. You can go to the part where it says preparing for college. It's a tab right at the top for students, and then it says preparing for college. It's a drop down. Click on that thing and look how many scholarships they have to offer for Ohio residents. I'm telling you, it's legit. Okay. In addition to the Ohio Higher Ed, right? Your local senators, your local politicians, your state politicians all have a budget for students who are attending college. But here's the thing, y'all. If East Cleveland is anything like Baltimore, where I'm from, anything like the neighborhood where I'm from, it's probably not going to be advertised. Okay? It's probably not going to be advertised. I actually called today to try to see if I could get some information. I didn't get any information, but I'm going to call back. I called y'all local politicians today. I called your mayor's office today, right? It's a Friday. Maybe it was around lunchtime, but I'm going to try to get that information so that it can be disseminated to you guys, right? But they have funds and you want to be able to access them. Okay. Give me a 5 in the chat if that makes sense before we move forward. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. I love it. I love it. Make sure that, especially if you're a senior, do it now because all these things are time sensitive. I don't know what the deadlines are, but here in Maryland, you have to do it before March 1st. Okay. You want to do all these things before March. Why? Because you want to know how much money you still need if it gets to March. And here's the thing, y'all. This is really going to become a numbers game, right? Once we talk about how to apply for scholarships, we'll get to that in a couple of minutes, right? Once we talk about how to apply for scholarships, it's literally going to be a numbers game. And what I mean by that is you're going to apply to as many college scholarships as possible. You're probably not going to get all of them, but all you may need is 10. All you may need is 3. All you may need is 1 if it's enough. That's why you have that top 10 list. Okay. I promise you it'll all make sense in a minute. Awesome. Let's move forward. All right. Here's some resources that you can obtain scholarships from. Listen, y'all, don't make the mistake of thinking that this thing is just going to magically happen. I made that mistake. I thought I was gifted enough, and I was gifted, but obviously not enough to have my full tuition and fees paid for. I had to figure it out. my father, I really love my dad too. And my father didn't go to college, but he got a PhD in common sense. And something that he commonly says, and has always said throughout my entire life, is that you don't have to do what I've done in order to know what I know. And so I'm telling you this today. You don't have to do what I've done. You don't have to make the mistakes that I made over 10 years ago to know what I know. It's not going to just magically happen. People are made successful by strategy. People are made successful because of their wit. People are made successful because of their commitment to accomplishing the goal that is set before them. And so I need you to be committed today. Here are some different resources you can get scholarships from. The number one is scholarships.com. There is a statistic, y'all. It's like million. I don't know the exact number. I don't know the exact number, but there are millions of dollars of scholarship funds that go unused every single year. Literally go to waste every single year. When I was in the industry, y'all, the Maryland Higher Education Commission would send us emails at the end of the semester. Every single semester, y'all, who can we give these funds to? Are there any seniors that have a balance left? We need to get rid of these funds. I'm telling you, the awards are there. They are available, but you got to apply to them. Scholarships.com. Here's another one. This is a Black-owned business. It's called Scholly. It's called the Scholly app. It's an application you can download on your phone. I think the app itself is free, but there is a subscription. It may be like $5 a month. This is just an option, okay? It's not necessary. Many of these that I'm showing you, in fact, all the others that I'm showing you don't require any type of payment, but this is just an option that I wanted to show you because it has a lot of other really, really valuable tools to help you narrow down scholarships. Another one is unigo.com, another free resource that offer a vast array of different types of scholarships. Let me tell you how intricate it can get. You can get a scholarship for being a woman. You can get a scholarship for community service. You can get a scholarship for being left-handed. You can get a scholarship because you go to church. Listen, if y'all go to church, listen, ask y'all pastors. Okay, I'm a preacher's kid. Okay, I serve in my ministry, right? If y'all go to church, you go to a mosque, you go to a synagogue, I don't know what you do. If you're connected to any type of community organization, ask them, do you have any scholarship funds available? Do you have $100 for books? Ask them. We'll talk about how to strategically do that a little bit later. Another really good resource is bold.org, BOLD.org. Make sure you take a picture of this, take a screenshot, screen record, make sure you get this information because this is going to be a hub for outside scholarships, okay? This is going to be a hub for you for outside scholarships. All right? Do me a favor really quickly. Give me a 1 in the chat if all that made sense. That was a lot of information before we move forward. And again, we're coming down towards the end. I know we've been rocking and rolling. I know that you're probably not bored. You're probably like, man, this is a lot of information. But listen, y'all, this is a partnership. Together, we are East Cleveland. And I'm coming back, y'all. I ain't going nowhere. Okay? So let's make sure that we get all this information, but I'll be back real soon. Awesome, 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 awesome. Let's move forward. All right, let's talk about grants. I call them scholarships first cousins. That's just my own lingo. They're like scholarships, but typically it's connected to a specific cause, perhaps Susan G. Komen, something of that nature. Maybe it's the entrepreneur type of scholarship. Maybe somebody who has a passion to build entrepreneurs wants to fund somebody's college education that's studying business. It could be a grant or a scholarship, but they just the names are just different. Okay, these grants, like how I was mentioning before with the Teach grant and the SEOG and all those things, they are likely to have more contingencies or more rules, if you will, or there may be a catch. So my admonishment to you, my advice to you is that when you are applying to grants and scholarships, especially because they are debt-free, that you are well aware of the requirements, of the contingencies, of the rules, of the requirements that you need to maintain that scholarship. There were too many times in working in the industry, and even now, right, that I'll come across students who are not in my program that just seek advice, right? That say, man, I got this state scholarship, but I dropped the class and they reduced it or they took it away, or I didn't get the right GPA. Y'all, these requirements need to be met or you will not get the scholarship. They will revoke it. And in some cases, y'all, you might have to pay it back. So it'll actually become a loan. So don't make the mistake of not knowing what you're getting yourself into. Know before you go, okay? Know what's required to maintain the scholarship and or grant. Here's another thing that you want to make mention to. It may not be a renewable scholarship. meaning you may not get that same $2,000 every single year. It may be only a one-time scholarship. And so if you get that one-time scholarship, that one-time $2,000 scholarship, and you use it in your first year, you have to find another $2,000 for that coming year, if that makes sense. Okay? So let's make sure that we're making mention to all those things that are required of us in regards to what we need to do to obtain and maintain these scholarships and grants. Awesome. We're going to talk about scholarship essays. We're going to talk about how to be strategic, okay? There are going to be a vast array of scholarships that you will come across, okay? There will be a vast array of different types of scholarships, different types of requirements that you apply for, right? Some of them will require an essay, right? I'm sorry, I see your question. We'll get to it. I think I have maybe like 2 more slides. We'll get to that. Okay, let's talk about this really quickly. They're going to be a core, there's what I call like a core set of scholarships that scholarship essays that you'll see commonly. Okay, what's your story? Okay, that's one of those things that you'll see commonly. Tell them who you are. Tell them your story. Tell them where you're from. Tell them I'm from East Cleveland. Tell them what East Cleveland is like. But don't just tell them what East Cleveland is like and who you are. Tell them about your hopes and your dreams and aspirations. This is your opportunity to sell yourself. Not in a derogatory way, not in a negative way, but to give that scholarship funder, that organization, a glimpse of who you are so that they know that they're making a good investment. Okay, what's your story? That's going to be a type of scholarship. You need to have these things ready. Like you need to go ahead and start writing these essays, at least 250 words. Okay. In my program, I try to aim for 500, but I would say at least 250 words. Okay. So get that one essay out of the way. The next one is, what will you do once you obtain your degree? What do you want to study? I want to be a biologist. Why do you want to be a biologist? What are you going to do? What are your hopes, your dreams, your plans, your aspirations for the future when you get your degree? That's going to be another common type of essay. Another one is, what will you do with the money? Now, this seems really redundant, or this seems like a dumb question, right? Because it's like, of course, I'm going to use the money to pay for school, right? Yes, you're going to use the money to pay for school, but this is the reason why you got to be strategic, right? Remember, we talked about that top 10 list, right? That top 10 list is not going to show you only your schools. It's going to show you how much it costs for you to pay, right? And let's say you do your FAFSA, you get a couple of awards, and you still have a deficit of $500, right? And you're applying for a scholarship that's $500. Because you have that information, and they ask you, what are you going to do with the money? You can literally outline strategically and say, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've applied for the FAFSA. I got this award. I got the SEOG. I got the Pell. I got a Walmart scholarship, but I need just a little bit more. That's going to communicate a level of preparation to that person reading your essay that's going to set you apart. You're literally going to be an anomaly, and that's a good thing. You're literally going to be someone who stands out, and they're going to have no choice but to give you that money. Yup, take it. You can have it. In fact, they might even give you some more. Okay, let's move forward. I think we're coming down to the end. All right, this will be more relevant for the younger families, college savings plans, okay? There are 2 main types, prepaid tuition plans, as well as educational savings plans. Prepaid tuition plans are simply exactly that, right? A specific account set up to pay for tuition and fees for a specific institution. And my alma mater, Copper State University, if it's $13,000, right, annually, that prepaid tuition plan, you're going to be setting money aside. You're going to be gifted money from family and friends, right? Forego some of the Xboxes and the tennis shoes. Forego some of the gifts and the toys and all of that stuff. Listen, I don't know if I shared it, but my first child is going to be here in about 7 weeks, a little less than 7 weeks. And we don't know the gender, so we call my child Baby J, right? So Baby J, Baby J probably not gonna get many toys, and it's not because I'm a bad dad. It's not because my wife is not a great mom. It's because we don't want to pay student loans. We don't want Baby J to have to subject his paychecks or her paychecks to the plague of student loan lenders. And so we're gonna open up the accounts necessary so that they can go without student loans. So while my child will be born Your child may be 16, your child may be 17, and it may not be as relevant to you right now, but you can start with saving something, okay? Prepaid tuition plans go towards a specific institution, but then on the alternative, you'll have educational savings plans, which are likened unto the same thing, but they're just for, it's just in general, if you will. It's not for a specific school or a specific set of schools. It's just college in general. One of those types of accounts you'll see are Coverdell SEA accounts, okay? It's just a different name, but it's all really the same thing. If you've heard of the term 529 plan, excuse me, every state has one. Okay, so it'll differ from Maryland to Ohio, it'll differ from Florida to North Carolina, but every state has their own system set up for college savings plans. Again, this is not as relevant to those students who are on the latter end of their high school career, right? But this will be really, really relevant to those students and those families that have the littles, like I call them, elementary and middle school scholars. Okay, and even on the first half of high school, 9th and 10th grade, it's so much better to have and not need than it is to need and not have. Can I tell you that that if I would have set aside $200 every year for 7 years, right? If I have it in the book, when you get the book, it's in chapter 1. I think I put like $200. If I would have set aside $200 a year, listen, a year. If I would have set aside $200 a year, that would have paid for about 25% of my college tuition when I was in undergrad. For 7 years, saved $200 a year. That would have paid for about 25% of my college tuition. In addition to another key that I'm about to give you. It's in the book too, but I'm gonna tell you because we already here. Remember how I talked about tuition and fees? Some of them you don't have to pay for. Most of them you will, but some of them you won't. Here's one. Every single college undergraduate student that's enrolled full-time has to have health insurance. You have to have health insurance, okay? What may not be commonly expressed to you is that if you already have your own health insurance, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, if your child, if your student, your scholar is on your health insurance, then you don't need to pay for it at college. And so what you can do is waive that fee, okay? What you can do is waive that expense. For me, that was over $1,100, which is again, around about 25%. So can you imagine if you add the deduction of paying for health insurance, right? If you add the deduction of paying for health insurance, if you add the deduction of, or rather saving $200 a year, for me, that would have saved me 50% around about, give or take, of my college tuition and fees, y'all. You see the strategy? You see how this is not just magically happening? It's because it's intentionally done, y'all. This information, when it's applied, is extremely life-changing, extremely powerful. And your children, your scholars, your sons, your daughters, your nephews, your nieces, your grandchildren will not have to subject their paychecks to the plague of student loan lenders, okay? There's strategy that's needed with this. You need adequate time, you need a plan, and you need knowledge. That's what we're getting today. I think we're down to the last one. Awesome. 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 I think this is my last and final slide before we get into Q&A. We talked about investing. We talked about investing for the future. And what I want to make perfectly clear, if it's not already clear, is that investments are not merely financial, meaning investments are not always with money. I told you guys earlier that 77% of college graduates graduate with student loans. Okay? But what about the remainder? 77 is not 100%. What about the rest of them? The rest of them that don't pay student loans. I've actually had the pleasure to encounter students while working in the industry and consulting afterwards when I left the industry that do not have to borrow. And it's because they were strategic. Can I tell you that many of them come from a place just like East Cleveland? Many of them come from families that I'm sure are much like yours. Didn't have a lot of money, just like how my family was. Didn't have no extra. Didn't have no extra. Okay? And so here's the thing, y'all. You don't have to have a whole bunch of money, but you do need to invest your time, y'all. And so this is one of the most vital keys. Okay, this is the second most important key. The first most important key is that this information is not going to be powerful until you use it. So use the key. But the second most important key, y'all, is you have to implement strategic time Every single week. I call it Scholarship Sundays, y'all. Me and my team, me and the students that I serve, we rocking out every Sunday. Carve out an hour. If you got more time, do more time. Okay? I want you to aim to apply to at least 100 scholarships. I know y'all thinking, man, that's a lot. But think about it like this. Let's be strategic. If you take 30 minutes every single day, if you take 30 minutes every single day and apply to 2 scholarships, one of them can be with no essay, another one can be an essay. You already have your essays written. You may have to tweak and update and be a little bit more specific, but you already have the framework that you can interchange that will be useful for you, right? And you just apply to 2 every single day. In a month, you'll be about halfway there. And that's only a month, right? If you do this every single day, even if you don't do 2 a day, let's say you do 1 a day. Let's say you do 3 a day, whatever it is, you have to make the commitment to investing your time. Okay? Dedicate time each week to prepare for college. Don't think that it's just going to happen. Listen, y'all, I love this quote. I heard it first by another speaker. His name is Mr. Jeremy Anderson. And he tells a story about how he encountered a homeless man one time, a young homeless man, a very young homeless man. And he was just impelled and he was compelled to have a discussion. He brought him lunch or whatever, and they were talking. And he was just asking him about his story. He said, what happened? Like, what was it? And he said, man, like, I really don't know. Like, I was doing this and that. I was with the family. And then just one day I kind of just, ended up here. And here's the quote that I never want you to forget. This is what Mr. Anderson says. He says that if you're not intentional about success, then you may mistakenly or accidentally become a failure. That won't be us because we're going to be strategic. But I just only say that to impress a point upon you, y'all. You've got to put in the work. I love this quote from one of my favorite movies. I'm sure you may have seen it. If you have, do me a favor, put a 1 in the chat. If you know what it is, put a 1 in the chat. Here's the quote, though. It says, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but it's the size of the fight in the dog. Yeah. And so I need you to have some fight inside of you. As we're getting ready to transition to question and answer, right? I need you to recognize and fully know, y'all, like you have to be strategic about this or it will never happen. All this information is great. You may have been inspired. You may have got some keys, but if you don't use that key to unlock the door, it'll never work. Listen, y'all, that's all I have. This is one of my favorite parts of these types of presentations is question and answer. One thing that I know to be true about financial aid is that there isn't a one size fits all type of thing, right? Different family dynamics require, I love it. Different family dynamics require different information, right? And so because of that, there will be perhaps special questions that you may have according to your situation, or let's say someone that you know, because I don't want anybody to feel embarrassed, right? Someone that you know, right? And you'll need specific guidance with that. This is the time for that. If you have a question about anything that I've mentioned, if you have a question about anything that I've said, right? This is the time for that. Miss Heath, I don't know if you want to jump back on or come on the camera. I can start with your question that you dropped in the chat, or however you want to do it. I'm going to pass the mic to you, but if not, like I said, I'll talk till 10 o'clock, but let me just go ahead and press the pause real quick.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for the information. This was excellent. I know that I got a lot out of it, even having gone to college myself, now being in the role of a parent with children who are intending to go to college. It's just good to get a reminder of some of those things prior to having to do them. So I definitely am appreciative of that. In terms of questions, I'm looking in the chat now. I know I put a question in there, and the question was, if you've been awarded a private grant or scholarship, is that information that you have to disclose to, like, through the financial aid application, and how would that affect the amount of aid that you get?
Great question. So let me, what I think you're saying is that if you get some sort of funds, perhaps outside of the federal government, do you have to report that? There is a question on the FAFSA application that does allude toward that, right? But I don't remember the specific verbiage. The reason that you may have to report it, if they consider it to be income, right? If it's outside of a specific case, but if it's considered to be income, then they're going to ask you to report it. If it's something that is that is educationally based, I don't think that they will ask for it. They may, but I know for a fact that if it's a grant, if it's like economic relief grant, they're gonna want to know. It's gonna be considered to be income. Great question though.
Okay, thank you. And then I see another question in the chat, and the question was about the book. Ms. Fun says you keep mentioning a book that these keys are in. What is the link for the book? And so that's an excellent question. And I guess I will let the cat out of the bag unless you would
Awesome.
like to.
Got it.
So for everyone that's on the call, we, if you have a student in the district, we will be providing them with a free copy of Mr. Ellis's book within the next couple of weeks. And let me know if you're on here and you're a community member, but your student is not in the district, please let us know that as well so we can get that information to you, because this particular workshop was open to whoever goes on to the East Cleveland page. And so they may or may not have students in the district. Yes, if you would like to share that with me, that would be great, just so I can make sure. But if you're on here and you're a resident, and we want to make sure that you have information about the book, would you like to share the title of the book? And also,
Absolutely.
obviously, his information is right there on the screen. His socials, it's his name, jordangreenellis.com is the website, and there's information about the book on there. And
Yes,
then his Instagram and Facebook handles are right there as well. And so, but if you share your contact information with us, or if you register at the link, then we will make sure that we contact you with follow-up information on how to purchase the book if you're outside the district, or how we'll get that book to you if you have a student in East Cleveland City Schools.
Awesome. I love it. Yep. All the information is right over my right shoulder. jordangreenellis.com, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, J Green Ellis Live. You can find me there. More information, you can get the book there if you're not in the district, or make sure that you follow up with Miss Heath. We want to definitely make sure that you get this information above all else. If you have questions or concerns, you can shoot me an email. I'll drop it in the chat. It's jordanspeaks@jordangreenellis.com. I have no problem with chatting with you. And in fact, I'll do this, y'all. If you're on the call tonight, I'll do a consultation with you. Like we can do a 15-minute consultation free of charge. We can talk about if you have specific questions about the process, anything college readiness, y'all. College readiness is really my thing. This is my bread and butter. Even outside of the financial aid piece, clearly you guys see what I know about financial aid. But even if it comes down to attending institutions, before this meeting, I got off with an institution in North Carolina called St. Augustine's University. And SAU is an amazing school, an amazing option. My alma mater, Coppin State, I'm still very well involved. I'm still very well connected. I actually had planned to have some of my team members who are well connected there come on tonight, but they couldn't make it. And so definitely, any questions, if you have, anything about getting connected to resources or getting into college, we can definitely get you into college. Don't listen, y'all. I don't think for a moment that whatever you're going through is going to prevent you from getting to college, because now listen, you're connected to me now, and I'm not trying to say it like I'm super important, but I am connected. I was just on with the college president at St. Augustine's. I was just on with the vice president of student affairs and the dean of admissions. Okay. And they are literally saying, is one of the things that was mentioned, we don't want money to be a barrier. So they're literally putting their money where their mouth is. Don't think that you can't do it. It can get done. Jordan speaks at jordangreenellis.com. Hit me up. We can chop it up.
Okay, I'm responding to some people in the chat.
Awesome.
And I'm seeing that we have Shaw High School represented.
I love
That
it.
was Miss Shamika, who said that her son is a senior.
I love it.
We
Shout out
have
to
an elementary student, and I know that's
I love
something
it.
that Mr. Ellis and I had talked about in terms of getting down, starting early, and the importance of starting early. And so one of our parents has a student at Caledonia. That is our K through 2 school.
Mhm.
And then we have another member on with us, Andrea Parks, and her child is not a student in the district, but she came on and got the information. Ms. Parks, can you share what grade your child is in?
My son is actually a senior at Bedford.
I love
Okay,
it.
awesome.
I
And
love
how
it.
did you find out about our event today?
Somebody who works for the district shared the link with me because
Awesome.
my son has been accepted to several schools and we've been awarded several scholarships and we're still looking. And so I reached out to my network and said, hey, if anybody knows of anything, I need y'all to let me know. And this was shared, and so I joined.
I
Oh,
love
well,
it.
excellent. We're glad to have you here. And I just want to
Mhm.
say, number one, as we head towards the end of our time together, thank you for making the time. I know it's a Friday and it's been the end of probably a long week for all of us between family and work. And so I'm really grateful that you all set the time aside to come and get this information and make this investment in yourself and, of course, in the future of your families. This information it has been recorded and it will be posted and shared on the Community Empowerment website, which is located within the East Cleveland City School District actual site. And we'll also have it on our social media for future reference. So if you know someone that wanted to attend and could not attend, please let them know that the information will be on the site. And then we definitely are going to plan to follow up again in a couple months with Mr. Green Ellis, and we'll be doing some other things around this topic. So if you see another link, just know it won't be a repeat performance because, as he said, there's so much more to
Yeah.
this subject that has, nothing to do with what we just learned tonight, but it's just an extension of the same process. How do we get our students and those students that we support in our lives, how do we get them to be able to reach and show, their full potential by being able to go to college? So I'm going to ask Mr. Green Ellis if there's no other questions, if he can give us some closing remarks, and then we're going to let you go.
Got you. I want to actually I do want to go over one common question that I get. One of those common questions is, what do I do when I live by myself, or mom and dad don't take care of me, or I live with auntie and uncle, but on paper, mom and dad are my legal parents and guardians, right? And so, like how I mentioned before, with financial aid, specifically with the federal government, there's no one cookie cutter way because we come from a conglomerate of different family dynamics and backgrounds, right? And so if, for example, let's say you're a student who's 18 years old, on paper, mom and dad are your legal parent and guardian, right? But you don't live with them, or there's an extenuating circumstance. Something happened, somebody passed away, somebody got into an accident, income was lost, somebody lost a job, whatever. If there's an extenuating circumstance, this is something that is not going to be broadcasted to you, right? This is something that you're going to need to just know. You're going to need to be connected to know. You can complete what's called a special circumstances form, okay? Special circumstances form. But you'll have to ask, you'll have to inquire. So if anything happens, income changes, somebody gets sick, somebody passes away, car accident, whatever, any type of special circumstance, do not just accept what they give you. Go to the financial aid director, go to the counselor. Hi, I would like to complete a special circumstances form. Give them a little bit of information. Be sincere, okay? Because they technically don't have to give it to you, right? And it's going to be, I don't think that they will withhold it from you. Let me not say it like that. But you want to be sincere in your approach, because sometimes people do try to mishandle and or misuse types of situations. You will have to provide documentation, right? Like if you say somebody passed away, you probably have to submit a copy of the obituary or so on and so forth, or medical reports or whatever. But you'll have to inquire about it. So if you're in a special circumstance, any type of extenuating circumstances that changes your financial situation, complete that form. You have to inquire about it. It's called a special circumstances form. Okay. Awesome. That's the only thing that I wanted to share. I wanted to close with these final words, y'all. There's an African proverb that is very, very relevant to this discussion today. And it's going to be relevant to the work that myself and East Cleveland will do together. I said that we're conquering college readiness with equity, empathy, and excellence. Together, we are East Cleveland. And I want to emphasize together, the African proverb says this: if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. It's my desire, it's my dream, it's my hope, it's my aspiration that every family, every student, every parent, every scholar that I encounter be made better because of this information so that we can go far together. Here's what I'm telling you, y'all. You don't have to do it alone. Yes, you got the information, but I'm still a resource here to you guys. Don't think that it can't happen. It's not about whether or not it can be done, y'all. It's about how do we get it done. Now that we have the how, we got to use the keys. I love y'all so much. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to come back. I can't wait for you guys to get the book. I can't wait to get out to East Cleveland, y'all. Maybe it'll be sometime next year, but it's definitely going to be a time to remember. Thank y'all so much. Make sure you tune into the replay, share this broadcast, support your school district, y'all. They have amazing plans to do great work for the now and for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And you all have a great evening. Those of you that shared that you are parents of seniors, and that's applicable to all the people who attended, we will be putting you in the drawing for a $1,000 scholarship towards your students' education. And so we're just really glad that you made the time. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening and a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.